A quick disclaimer before we dive into the video. There are probably going to be some very offensive opinions in this video. So if you don't like that sort of thing, click off. And without further ado, please enjoy my top 10 least favorite killers to play against. Number 10, we got Freddy. Playing against a Freddy is like watching a worm cross a road. It's slow, it's painful, and it might be one of the most uninteresting experiences imaginable. The reason why Freddy is so dang low is not necessarily because he's like infuriating to play against or the people that play him are like really bad or annoying or anything. It's just like, I don't know, I just think he's very boring to play against. Like, I have nothing against people who play Freddy. It's just, I generally play games for a challenge, and Freddy is just not that, unless the Freddy player in question is absolutely cracked. Number 9, we have the Doctor. You know, the best way I can describe the Doctor is, you know that feeling when you get a rock in your shoe and that rock just won't get out no matter what you do? Even if you take off your shoe, you shake the shoe, and then you put your shoe back on and the rock is still somehow in there. That is genuinely what it feels like to be playing against the Doctor. He's annoying, he's not fun, and his power just shuts down loops, and I don't like that very much. Honestly, any killer that can just shut down a loop with no effort is not a fun killer in my opinion, and Doctor is exactly that. He's also just very, very annoying. He's a pest. He electrocutes you, you scream all the time. I don't find him very interesting. He's very boring, and on top of that, he's just a little bit irritating. So, yeah, no, Doctor, you deserve to be here. Number 8, we have the Clown. Similar to Doctor, I think Clown is just lame. His whole power is designed to shut down loops and limit mind games, which in my opinion is just raw stupidity. Because looping and mind games, at least in my opinion, are the most fun part of DBD in its entirety. And Clown just says, you know what? No, you're not allowed to have fun playing Dead by Daylight. Instead, your only counterplay is to hold W and hope for the best. That's boring, and I hope Clown eats a rock. Number 7, we have the Nurse. Now, quick disclaimer before we dive into the Nurse. I'm gonna say this ranking varies wildly depending on the Nurse you are facing. For example, if the Nurse is really bad or is like just not an absolute god, it can genuinely be a pretty great time. Like, you know, you can predict her blinks, you can work around her, but if the Nurse is good, which let's face it, most nurses you faced are usually pretty good most of the time, it's miserable. It honestly feels like you're just spectating your own death, and the only good thing about Nurse in that situation is the fact that the game will be over quickly, which is more than I can say for our next killer on this list. Number 6, we have the Twins. When you combine bad game design with a complete lack of empathy, you get the Twins. Seriously, I would have loved to be in attendance for the behavior meeting where the Twins were conceived. I just imagine it going something like this. Okay, boss, hear me out. What if we have a killer that's heavily reliant on camping, tunneling, and slugging?
Approved.
I mean, seriously, this train wreck of a killer should be studied. It is incredible how bad behavior like cooked the Twins. And I don't even blame Twins players, because you have to play Twins in a sort of campy / slugging way, because otherwise you're just guaranteed to lose. Like, you're encouraged to do it and you're basically required to do it. So yeah, Twins is here just because her game design is so bad, and I just find her very, very boring to play against. And the only satisfying thing about the Twins is kicking that little goblin in the face. But even then, it's honestly surprisingly difficult to do. So sorry, Twins, you deserve this. Number 5, we have the Ghostface. And I will be the first one to admit that this ranking is pretty biased. I'm gonna be honest. And I think the reason why I don't like Ghostface is because I just have a lot of really, really bad Ghostface games. And I think the reason why I dislike him so much is the fact that his power is entirely revolved around ending a chase as fast as possible. And it ends the chase so fast that it never really gets a chance to actually get going, and I find that really boring in my opinion. I also am not a huge fan of having to constantly swing my camera in every which direction just to look out for this absolute goober staring around the corner. Just not really my cup of tea. On top of that, every single Ghostface game I get into, it honestly feels like one poor soul gets tunneled instantly. Like, I don't know what it is, Ghostface just loves tunneling. I mean, I get it, you're kind of encouraged to do it, and I never have fun in Ghostface games. I don't know what it is, Barring a few exceptions, I think most Ghostface games are pretty miserable. Like every once in a while you'll get one of those goofy Ghostface games, but most of the time it's just slow, miserable, and some poor dude on your team is gonna get tunneled almost every single time. And honestly, I just find that really lame and boring, and I think Ghostface is just agitating to go against in general. Like every time I see him, I'm like, ugh, one of these games. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't like him. Like, I think this one you could definitely make an argument to not be here, but just because I'm grouchy and I'm a salty survivor main, I guess, he's here. So, moving on. Number 4, we have the artist. So, my logic for putting artist here is pretty simple. She is extremely powerful, and if the artist player in question even kinda knows what you're doing, you are completely and utterly cooked. And I'm not a huge fan of the only counterplay to artist just being hold W and hope for the best. Might be a hot take here, but I really don't enjoy a killer that just absolutely dominates when the person who's playing said killer is actually good at the game. Like, that's not fun. That's the reason why people hate Nurse. And I think Artist is the same story, except Artist is way easier to master than Nurse. Usually these games are over very quickly if you're dealing with a good artist, and I don't think I've ever had an interesting artist game before. You either destroy or you get destroyed. Like, there's very rarely an in-between, so I don't know. Sorry, artist players, but I just don't think she's very interesting to play against. Number 3, we have the Trickster. Now, this is a placement I am not apologetic about at all. Oh my god, this stupid, washed-up K-pop star hurts me on so many levels. His knives are genuinely infuriating, and there are some situations where you literally can't do anything apart from just keel over and die. And while you're being bombarded with the knives, your ears are also being assaulted with this absolutely god-awful chase theme. I mean, just take a listen to this. Another thing I really love about Trickster is the fact that a loop is entirely determined by its, like, how tall it is. Unlike basically every other killer in the game, the power of a loop is entirely determined on how tall the loop is. Like with Trickster, it's like looping, yep, that's irrelevant. It's dumb. I hate Trickster from a gameplay perspective. He's so stupid. And to everyone who unironically mains Trickster, I hope your pillow is warm tonight. Number 2, we have Skull Merchant. To be honest, I haven't really seen much Skull Merchant since she got nuked into the dirt, but I don't think I need to explain why Skull Merchant belongs here in this spot, and I hope Skull Merchant eats a cactus. Number 1, we have the Knight. Okay, I hate everything about the Knight's power. A good Knight player can literally shut down any loop and make you feel absolutely useless. And the Knight can put you in situations where you are guaranteed to go down or get hit regardless of how well you play. In Chase, Knight's ability to zone you is absolutely stupid, and there's almost zero counterplay around it. And I find it incredibly infuriating. I find it incredibly boring. And Knight is he's just the right combination of boring, unfun, and infuriating to play against. I just think he's so, and like, he has a cool concept. Like, you know, how each individual guard does its own thing. Like, that's cool. But the way you're forced to play around them is just so dumb. Like, the only counterplay is just hold W and hope for the best. And even when you're outside of Chase, Knight can just be like, herder, I have a guard. He sends it over, you're immediately under pressure, and the Knight can show up himself and slash you with basically no effort required on his end. I honestly hate it every time I see this man in my lobby. Like, every time I see a Knight, it's like I reevaluate all of my life choices whenever I see one. It just makes me sad. I think Knight's dumb. The only redeeming quality about Knight is that he looks cool and he sounds cool. That's literally it. I hate everything else about him. I think his gameplay is incredibly boring. I think the fact that there's no counterplay to him is also really dumb, and I'm just not a huge fan of the Knight. Overall, those are my takes, my top 10 most hated killers in Dead by Daylight. You can absolutely vehemently disagree with me, and honestly understand that, especially you Ghostface enjoyers, because I know there are a lot of you. What am I saying right now? You know what, just close out the video, Jesus Christ. Okay, so if you like the video, subscribe. If you hate the video, subscribe. If you breathe funny, subscribe. And if you have, in fact, drinking water, oh my God, I can't talk. All right, so jokes aside, I hope I didn't make too much offense to any of you here. And on that note, please stay strong, stay clear, Spitfire out.